Good evening, Africa. And to every corner of the world that has its eyes fixed on Ouagadougou tonight, listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you will rewrite the script of power in Africa forever. In the dead of night, under a sky heavy with silence, an event unfolded that will leave Western intelligence scrambling for answers. Not in Washington, not in Paris, not in London, but here on the proud soil of Burkina Faso, an attack. Calculated, funded, and designed to shatter the heart of this nation. A strike aimed not just at a military base, but at the very spirit of our resistance. The enemy came cloaked in shadows, armed with precision, confident that their mission would be swift and decisive. But they miscalculated one thing. Captain Ibrahim is no ordinary leader. He is a man whose every step echoes the will of millions, and whose cause is guarded not just by his people, but by history itself. And in that tense electric moment when danger pressed at the gates, something extraordinary happened. Out of the dark came the disciplined, silent stride of an elite force. Not mercenaries bought with blood money. Not agents of a foreign colonizer seeking control. No, these were the Ghost Wolves, a covert unit of Russian commandos, dispatched in secrecy, trained in the highest arts of protection and warfare, moving with the precision of a storm and the resolve of a shield. Why were they here? Why would a nation thousands of miles away send its most skilled warriors to guard the life of an African president? The answer is bigger than bullets and borders. This is about a global shiftery alignment of loyalty, power, and vision. It is about the crumbling of old empires and the birth of a new order where alliances are forged in respect, not exploitation. Make no mistake, the West will spin this as interference. They will call it dangerous. They will demand answers. But the truth is simple. This was not interference. This was solidarity. A promise between nations who have both tasted the poison of colonial aggression and vowed never to swallow it again. Tonight, I am not here to entertain you. I am here to warn you, to inspire you, and to tell you without a shred of doubt Africa has friends the West cannot intimidate. Captain is no longer walking alone. He is guarded by eyes that never close, hands that never shake, and allies who will not hesitate when the time comes to act. This is not the Africa they taught you about in their history books. This is the Africa they fear in their war rooms. Stay with me. Because by the time you hear the full story of what happened inside that base, and the quiet, ruthless way those attackers were dismantled, you will understand that the days of an unprotected Africa are gone forever.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. What I am about to reveal tonight is not just another headline, not just another geopolitical twist. It is the kind of revelation that shakes the very foundations of global power and sends cold shivers down the spines of those who have for decades considered Africa their chessboard. This is a story that the West hoped you would never hear, one they prayed would remain buried under layers of classified documents and diplomatic denials. But here, in this moment, we pull back the curtain. The news has broken, and it is explosive. Following a failed, coordinated attack on a high-security military base in Burkina Faso just days ago, an elite unit of Russian commandos has been dispatched under a secretive security agreement to protect Captain Ibrahim Traore himself. This is not rumor. This is not speculation. This is reality. And it is the reality that terrifies the Western intelligence apparatus more than any economic sanction, more than any United Nations resolution, more than any trade embargo they could ever dream up. The attack on the base, let us call it for what it truly was not the work of unknown militants or unidentified insurgents, as some sanitized media outlets are reporting. No, this was a calculated, well-funded, and professionally executed attempt to destabilize Burkina Faso from the inside, to break the spirit of the Pan-African resistance, and to send one chilling message to Ibrahim Traore: you are not untouchable. But the message failed. The bullets failed. The operation failed. And now, in a move that signals a monumental shift in the balance of power in West Africa, Russia has stepped into the shadows not with public declarations, but with boots on the ground. Boots that will never be shown in photographs, boots that will never give interviews, boots that are here for one purpose only: to ensure that Traore remains alive, defiant, and unshaken. Do you understand what this means? For years, the West has played a very careful game in Africa, funding proxies, controlling narratives, and maintaining influence without getting their hands openly dirty. They have bankrolled coups, undermined governments, assassinated leaders, and replaced them with puppets who would dance to their tune. But now, their old playbook is failing. The young captain from Burkina Faso has torn it to shreds. And in doing so, he has forced the West into desperation. The attack on the military base was not random. According to intelligence leaks, which, I assure you, are coming from sources far closer to the situation than any foreign embassy, the target was not the base's infrastructure, nor was it about capturing weapon caches. The true objective was psychological warfare, to create panic in the command ranks, to rattle Traore's confidence, and to fracture the trust between Burkina Faso's leadership and its soldiers. But they underestimated him. They underestimated the resolve of his men. They underestimated the reality that this new Africa, this awakening Africa, no longer folds under pressure. And now the West is staring at something they did not anticipate: the quiet but unyielding presence of Russian special forces in West Africa. Not as invaders, not as colonizers, but as allies. This move is nothing short of a nightmare for NATO strategists and Western intelligence agencies, because for decades, they have thrived on the idea that Africa could be isolated from non-Western power blocs. They have convinced themselves that military partnerships, especially with a nation like Russia, could be stifled, blocked, or sabotaged before they became reality. But this was done in silence. No grand announcement, no press conference, no diplomatic spectacle. One day, the base was attacked. The next, there were whispers in Ouagadougou of unfamiliar, cold-eyed men moving in the shadows, their presence felt but not flaunted, their movements swift, precise, and impossible to track. This is not just about protecting Traore's life. It is about sending a message. To the West, the message is simple: Burkina Faso is no longer alone. To Africa, the message is even more powerful: the age of assassinated dreams is over. We must understand why this partnership is so significant. Russia is not sending just any military advisors. They are not sending mere consultants. These are Spetsnaz operatives, men whose very existence is denied in official records, men who have operated in the most dangerous war zones in the world, men who do not fail their missions. If they have been tasked with ensuring Captain Ibrahim Traore's safety, it means that someone, somewhere, has assessed the threat against him and deemed it not only credible, but imminent. Do you think this will stop with Burkina Faso? Do you think the West will look at this and say, well, we tried? No. This failed attack will trigger an escalation. We can expect more attempts: economic sabotage, cyber attacks, propaganda campaigns, perhaps even a push for internal betrayal within Burkina Faso's ranks. But here is the difference. The captain is no longer standing on the battlefield alone. This is the first ripple in a geopolitical earthquake. And if you think it is contained to Burkina Faso, you are wrong. Niger is watching. Mali is watching. The entire Sahel is watching. And beyond Africa, nations like China, Iran, and even parts of South America are seeing proof that Western dominance in Africa is not unshakable. It can be challenged, resisted, and ultimately broken. As I speak these words tonight, somewhere in the Burkinabe capital, perhaps in a dimly lit operations room, a map is being marked. Movements are being tracked. Threats are being assessed. And in the middle of that map is one man, Captain Ibrahim Traore, whose survival now carries the weight of an entire continent's hope. This is why the West is panicking. This is why the silence around the failed base attack is deafening in Western media. They do not want you to know that they tried and failed. They do not want you to know that in the quiet aftermath of their failure, a new military alliance was cemented, one that could inspire a wave of similar pacts across Africa. I will tell you more, but understand this. What is happening right now is not simply about one man's security detail. This is about the recalibration of global power. For the first time in decades, the threat is not just that Africa will rise. It is that Africa will rise with allies who have the will and the means to make it happen. What we have just witnessed is not merely a story of soldiers and security. It is the unfolding of a new era where the lines between allies and enemies are no longer drawn by colonial hands, but by the shared will of sovereign nations who refuse to kneel. When those unknown attackers, fueled by foreign agendas, attempted to breach the military heart of Burkina Faso, they were not just firing upon walls and gates. They were firing upon the dream of a self-determined Africa. But the universe has a way of protecting those whose mission is rooted in truth. And in the shadows of that attempted betrayal came the disciplined footsteps of men who had crossed continents not for conquest, but for solidarity, elite Russian commandos, who understood that Captain Ibrahim Traore was not just a leader of Burkina Faso, but a symbol for every African heart that beats for freedom. Their arrival was swift, their presence unannounced, and their loyalty unquestionable. No media circus, no grand parade. Only the silent promise that anyone who dared to harm the fortress of African sovereignty would face consequences beyond their imagination. For too long, the West has played chess with our destiny, moving their pawns in secrecy, launching covert operations to destabilize our progress. But this time, the board flipped. This time, the hunters became the hunted. And make no mistake, this alliance between Russia and Burkina Faso is not born of weakness, but of choice. It is a declaration that African nations will form bonds where mutual respect is the currency, not exploitation. That our protection will not come from those who drain our resources in exchange for empty promises, but from those who see us as equals in the shaping of a multipolar world. Tonight, I tell you, the failed attack was not just repelled, it was transformed into a message carved in iron. To those in Paris, Washington, London, and beyond, the days of unchallenged interference are over. The African continent is no longer your chessboard. Captain Traore is no longer a lone figure in the storm. He is guarded by the winds of global resistance, from Moscow to Bamako, from Ouagadougou to every village where hope refuses to die. So stand tall, Africa, because what happened here is only the beginning. We are entering an age where our leaders will be shielded not by words, but by unwavering force when necessary. And to the West, let this sink in. You are not dealing with the Africa of yesterday. You are dealing with the Africa that fights back, the Africa that wins, the Africa that will stand long after your empires have turned to dust. This is the news. This is the truth. And this is the dawn of a world you cannot stop.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.